The subject of this video contains strong language and graphic violence. Viewer discretion is advised. Not so long ago, TellTale Games had the gaming industry in a vice grip. They had a consistent, high-quality output in an essentially dead genre, and they absolutely transformed the space. Now, if you mention the point-and-click adventure genre, there's a high likelihood it conjures images of a TellTale product. And if you mention episodic games, I'm not sure anyone else would even come to mind. The very idea of releasing a game piecemeal sounds abhorrent in a landscape now fraught with jaded skepticism. The post-early access world causes that idea to leave a bit of a bad taste in the mouth. But not with TellTale. Playing a TellTale game was the first time I caught myself truly engaging with the story of a game rather than seeing the narrative as window dressing for mechanics. All at once, I began seeing games as a method of delivering memorable, emotional, and personal narratives. And it started because of The Walking Dead. For over a decade, AMC's The Walking Dead had TV audiences in a chokehold. By the time I got to high school, it felt like all my friends were enraptured by it. Everyone waited with bated breath for the next episode. The writing was fantastic, the characters were complex, and every episode dripped with drama. At least, that's what I'm told. I never watched the show myself. I had no real interest, I guess. I was more concerned about the gaming space than anything else. But in 2012, I was given a reason to care about The Walking Dead thanks to TellTale. I don't remember the exact timeline of my experience with the game, but what I do recall is being on the edge of my seat when I finally got my hands on it. I never kept up with TV shows. I never cared when the next episode of the hottest program was going to air. It just didn't excite me. The Walking Dead game, however, changed all of that. Upon completion of an episode, I would scour the internet looking for anything that could tell me when the next was coming. It is a game that has imprinted itself in my memory for the rest of my life. It will always be on my list of most influential media experiences. It was memorable, emotional, and deeply personal. But until my most recent playthrough, there was an aspect of its story that I had only engaged with passively. See, the game lets you loose in the early hours of an unimaginable horror. The dead are alive, society is collapsing, and you have no idea what's going on. And in its first episode, the game gives you this.
Let's say things don't get better back in the cities, or they get worse before they do. You're going to have to depend on the honesty of strangers if you're going to make it. And if those same people get to questioning yours, you're going to be in trouble.
The Walking Dead tackles a lot of different themes. There are themes of loss, grief, hope, the meaning of family, second chances, and way more. But the game's most interesting theme is one that is most directly reflected through its gameplay. The theme of honesty and trust. Protagonist Lee Everett is a criminal. It's the first thing we learn about him. Not only is he a criminal, but he's a murderer, a characterization which carries damning social connotations. We first meet him at the point where his life is over. He's on the way to prison, and he's accepted his fate. He'll spend the rest of his days behind bars. But his fortune oddly turns for the better as the world turns into a nightmare. Suddenly, with the dead plaguing the living, the particulars of his past matter much, much less. We know that Lee is a good man at his core. When he comes across a scared and lonely 8-year-old girl, he doesn't hesitate to protect her.
I want my parents to come home now.
I think that might be a little while, you know?
Oh.
Look, I don't know what happened, but I'll look after you until then.
He may be a murderer, but he can't be all bad. She doesn't care about who he was before. All she knows is that this man saved her life and promised to keep her safe. Lee Everett is a complex man, and one we get to see develop right in front of our eyes. Not long after saving the girl, named Clementine, the pair come across another duo looking to escape the undead.
We shouldn't be out in the open like this. How about you help us clear the way, and we'll take you and your daughter out of here and down to my family's farm. It should be safer there.
I'm not her dad.
It is here that Lee is presented with his first opportunity to be honest. And if we were to look at the situation objectively, lying is a sensible choice. After all, it would be strange to admit that he, a grown man, just stumbled upon a young girl. perhaps the truth would raise further suspicions about Lee's integrity. But maybe honesty is the best policy.
Just some guy.
Some guy?
Yeah.
She's alone? Let's get going. Staying put for too long is a mistake.
What do you want to do?
Them monsters coming. We gotta go.
Regardless of your choice, Lee and Clementine help Sean and Chet out of a tight spot. However, the decision you made at that moment will follow you.
So it's just you and your daughter, then?
Oh, not his daughter. He's, well, just some guy who found her alone.
Honey, do you know this man?
Yes.
Okay, then. Well, looks like you hurt your leg pretty bad there.
This is Herschel, a wizened and skeptical man. At his son's behest, he agrees to fortify his farm to prevent being overrun by the hordes. When Lee approaches him to ask if he needs any assistance, Herschel unknowingly gives Lee advice that will dominate the rest of his life.
Let's say things don't get better back in the cities, or they get worse before they do. You're going to have to depend on the honesty of strangers if you're going to make it. And if those same people get to questioning yours, you're going to be in trouble.
It is this singular line that stuck with me in my most recent playthrough of the game. I don't know how I've never seen it before, but the game is dominated by the constant push and pull of the value of truth. Let me show you what I mean. After leaving the Green family farm, Lee and Clementine find themselves trapped in a pharmacy surrounded by ravenous walkers. But this isn't just some random venue. This pharmacy was owned by the Everett family.
Hell, the whole family used to be regulars at your folks' drugstore right in downtown. Still there?
Sure is.
Good.
This is a place that Lee has spent much of his life in and around. And here, the game removes the option to be honest about that connection. While you don't have to outright lie to anyone, you have the option of deceptive half-truths, and no options exist to come completely clean. This is almost immediately after being told that honesty is going to be the currency on which Lee will need to rely moving forward. Lee and Clementine are now surrounded by a group of people on whom they will need to lean in order to survive, and Lee makes the conscious choice to withhold the truth from them. But who are these people exactly? Does Lee have a good reason to keep his past hidden from them? There's the nearly nuclear family of Kenny, Katja, and Ken Jr., or Duck, who Lee met at Herschel's farm. They seem kind enough, though Kenny can be brash and self-imposing. In my playthrough, Lee has already saved Duck's life, and the family has his back because of it. But would they still if they knew the truth? There's also Lily and her father Larry, who are abrasive. Lily is shouldering the burden of leadership, which understandably keeps her on edge. But Larry is a hallmark antagonist. He vilifies everything and everyone, believing the world is out to get him and his daughter. If he knew the truth, he would surely leave Lee to die, all in the name of self-preservation. Then there's Carly, a reporter from Atlanta. She's compassionate and quick-thinking, coming to the rescue of Lee's crew upon their arrival in Macon. She's not exactly untrustworthy, but Lee has no idea who she is. Sure, she saved them, but would she have chosen to do so if she knew it meant sheltering a murderer? Considering all of these things, Lee opts to keep his identity and his past to himself. It's probably for the best anyway. After all, what they don't know can't hurt them, right? Then, this happens.
Find anything?
It's a photo of the family who own this place. Might help us track down the keys to the office.
I know who you are. You're Lee Everett. You're a professor at Athens who killed a state senator who was sleeping with your wife. This is your parents' store. Folks around town know the owner's son got himself a life sentence, but I'm a reporter for WABE in Atlanta. I paid attention to that trial. Maybe you're a murderer, but I don't really care. Frankly, that's a skill that might come in handy. But because if this lasts longer than a few days, and you're a detriment to the group, then we'd have a problem.
I hear you.
I'll just keep it to myself.
Suddenly, Lee is faced with the reality that his secret isn't so secret, and a past he wanted to bury isn't quite dead. And later on, Carly offers advice that is in stark contrast with Herschel's. It's her opinion that Lee should keep his skeletons in the closet.
Sometimes I wonder if I should talk to the group about it.
You don't have to. Whatever happened before things went to hell doesn't matter anymore.
This is the exact moment where the game lays out the forked path that leads to whom Lee Everett is. A truthful man doing his best with a second chance, or a liar who fears his past may ruin his future. This through line of honesty is present in every major story arc throughout the rest of the game. The most valuable thing Lee has at any given time is the truth. In fact, the most valuable thing that anyone has is truth. In The Walking Dead's second episode, our group of survivors is literally starving.
When I accidentally grabbed for Carly's rations the other night, I thought she was gonna take off my hand.
We're all on edge. Just cut us some slack.
Yeah, you're right. I wish I knew for sure how much food we have left.
We'll manage.
Maybe. You know, some people aren't too happy about the way Lily's handling rations.
Letty knows it's important to keep the adults fed and functioning. Sometimes that means someone's gotta miss a meal.
As the group weighs their options, they're approached by a pair of brothers, Andrew and Danny St. John, who's luckily exactly what they need.
Look, we own a dairy farm a few miles up the road. If y'all be willing to lower your guns, we can talk about some kind of trade.
How y'all doing on food? We got plenty at the dairy.
They agree to give the group food. And not just food, but a home-cooked meal. And not just a home-cooked meal, but a meal that can be conceivably replicated with the resources at their farm. A true stroke of luck. But it doesn't take long to discover the dark truth.
Oh, I know you. I know what you are. And I know what you do.
You don't know me.
Go on. Tell him, boy. Tell him what you got in mind for us.
The St. Johns are not who they appear to be. And in truth, they're worse monsters than the Walkers.
We found a woman in the woods. She was talking all crazy and had a crossbow. So Danny killed her.
Holy shit. Was she one of those bandits?
I don't know. I think she was trying to tell me something. But then he just went off.
I don't like this, Lee. I still say we should go back to the motor inn where we at least know what to expect.
Just don't roam around without me or Danny. The farm can be a dangerous place.
How's Mark doing in there?
Best patient I ever had. Oh, my boys get so much as a scratch and start hollering. He could definitely teach them a thing or two about being tough.
I'd still like to check on him.
You're gonna have to trust me on this, Lee.
What do they need so much morphine for? Looks like a bunch of medical waste in here. IV tubes, saline. What would dairy farmers need with this kind of stuff?
Don't eat dinner.
You're eating human meat!
Everything could have turned out okay for you folks.
In my playthrough, Lee had been totally honest with the St. John family to this point. There was no reason to lie to them, but they had been deceivers from the beginning. Lee had been relying on them to tell the truth. They didn't, and their lies nearly killed Lee's friends and Clementine. In this case, the value of truth was life itself. Had Lee not discovered the truth, it's likely the group wouldn't have known until it was too late. While this episode is explicitly dark, its implications are arguably more sinister. In essence, the St. Johns are not an anomaly. They were people pushed to the brink by walkers just like everyone else. The darkness that took hold of them could get anyone. It has a way of making you grateful for your group. Sure, some of them are abrasive. Yes, some of them are controlling. They aren't perfect people, but at least they're honest. Their value is their honesty. It's the very thing that's kept you alive, and it's the thing that saved you from the St. Johns. See, the St. Johns are a mirror, reflecting the inverse of what your group could easily become. But you're different. You're truthful with each other, even when it hurts, and that saves you from turning into people like the St. Johns. Your friends are honest people. right? Episode 3 is arguably the game's most gut-wrenching because it begins a series of events that somehow only keep getting worse. And it's because someone breaks the established bond of trust. But it starts with a change of heart.
You're a convicted killer.
Carly, Jesus.
And I think people should know. Not because they deserve to, and not because you're a bad man. I think the opposite of those two things. People need to know because we're hanging by a thread here, and I can't see Lily talk about you without thinking it's the next thing she's going to say. You don't have to tell everyone, but think about who you trust and take the opportunity while you have it.
This is only the second chance Lee gets to tell people his story. In episode 1, there was an opportunity to share his secret with Clementine, but that's it. The player is then faced with the dilemma of who to tell, and Carly offers an ominous warning.
People might be pissed, and telling them might cause some trouble, but it will be a far cry from what'll happen if they don't hear it from you. But everyone's different. Who knows how each person would take it, you know? Maybe it's worth thinking about who you want to tell.
This is probably a good time to follow Herschel's advice.
Clem, I need to talk to you for a second. Kenny, you got a second? I need to tell you something. Hey, Ben, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you something.
Sure, go ahead. But if it's bad news, maybe save it.
Before I met you and before the plague, I killed somebody. I killed someone. Different than Larry or the St. John's, different from everything. This was before the Walkers. I'm a convicted murderer. I killed someone before all of this.
Oh, so that's what...
Yeah, that's it. It was a bad thing and there's no explaining it.
Why are you telling me?
Because I didn't want to keep it to myself anymore. Do you have any questions? You can go on back to your things.
You should know. If we gotta make numbers when it comes to a boat, this is gonna matter. I appreciate it, though.
Thanks for trusting me, man.
Ben, relax.
Okay.
Dad said there was something about you.
So you know.
I didn't know what to know.
Well, it's true, and I'm sorry.
He treated you like shit, knew who you were, and you tried to save his life. The last thing you need to do is apologize.
Thank you.
With that out of the way, Lee is made privy to a heinous crime. Lily, slowly unraveling after the death of her father, compounded with the constant stress of leadership, discovers that someone is stealing supplies from the stash. In her own words,
Counts off and it's the good stuff. Antibiotics, oxy, fuck, anything with opium in it.
Despite Lee's skepticism, the proof is undeniable. A short investigation uncovers the shocking truth. Not only has someone been stealing supplies, but they've been leaving them as a kind of payment to the local bandits. And when their next stash goes missing, they naturally retaliate. The ensuing shootout forces everyone into their recently repaired RV. Tensions are high, and Lily is looking for someone to blame. Someone who lied.
Somebody was working with them. Whoever it was slipping them our meds. They didn't get their last package, so they attacked. So, Carly, is there something you want to say?
It doesn't take long for tempers to boil over.
Do we need any more evidence than this? Fuck evidence! Stop treating him like this! Shut up, Carly! Ugh, I've heard enough out of you!
Please, let's just get back in
That's
the RV.
not happening! You think you're some tough bitch, don't you? Like nothing can hurt you. But you're just a scared little girl. Get the fuck over it. Take a page from Lee's book and try helping somebody for once.
Now, what the fuck's the problem?
When confronted about her erratic behavior, Lily attempts to divide the group even more.
She's a murderer, for shit's sake!
Murderer? Lee's killed before and I forgave him.
Thankfully, Lee chose to be an honest man.
I don't care what he did before. If we keep you with us, how long until you get me?
I was trying to protect all of us.
After more dialogue, the group can either leave Lily stranded or keep her as a hostage until they can find a safe place to let her loose. Regardless of the choice, 2 members of the crew are actually or functionally dead. Then, a bombshell.
Lee, a word, please?
What's up? What the fuck?
Happened during the raid.
What's the plan? We've never had a bite victim in the group before.
I'm going to keep an eye on him and see what I can do from a medical perspective.
We keep the same plan unless something changes. East.
Guys.
What else is there to do? We thought you should know.
Important to stay honest with each other.
Whoever betrayed our trust has become responsible for the deaths of 3 friends, one of whom is a child resigned to a fate of slowly devolving into a mindless husk obsessed with devouring flesh. And as I said, this singular treason sets the group on a path that will be wrought with preventable tragedy. And this is the essence of the story that The Walking Dead wants to tell. Even if you're honest, even if you champion the truth, it doesn't matter if others don't do the same. The concepts of truth and honesty are the bonding agents that prevent collapse in the hellscape of the apocalypse. They are the things that, when cared for, prevent the birth of even more terrible monsters than the walkers. But despite your best attempts to be honest and open with the people you care about, one of them still chose to violate the code of trust, even after all the things you've been through. This perpetrator has done irreparable damage to the group, and they don't yet know the full extent of their crime. If you've played the game before, you might have guessed this moment was going to come up. When it becomes painfully clear that Ken and Katja's son is going to succumb to his bite wound, the parents are forced into a difficult decision. They resentfully come to the conclusion that it's better for them to end their son's suffering and prevent his inevitable turn into one of the undead.
What are we gonna do?
We can't allow him to become one of those things.
But what if he doesn't?
Kenny, I love you very much. I love our son more than life itself. I need you to hear me. What you are saying, that he may not turn, is foolish.
This is our son!
I know, but we know it's here or nothing.
Fuck. Just who, then? You want me?
It's a heartbreaking moment. Kenny and Kat take Duck into the woods to say their goodbyes in private. What happens next is one of the most shocking things I have ever seen in a game.
Look, Clem, things are... What the?
No!
Ben, take Clementine into the train. Go. It'll be fine.
Cat! Katja! Why? Cat? Honey? Oh, fucking God! You said you could do it, Cat. God damn it! You said you could do it!
Even after all of that, the game still requires Duck to be dealt with. And there's one thing in the back of my mind that I just can't let go of. Whoever lied to us about the stolen supplies is the one to blame. All of this happened because our trust was in the wrong person.
It was me.
Huh?
I was the one giving the bandits supplies.
What?
It's all my fault.
Kenny is now a broken man. He's lost everything he tried so hard to protect at every turn. And what's worse is that he feels that it's all his fault.
And now it's catching up to me.
That's not what went down. You looked out for your kid, and a bad thing happened to someone else's.
There ain't no way this world lets my son live when I help put someone else's in the ground.
That's not the way it works. You know that.
For the sake of brevity, we're gonna skip forward a bit. Lee and the gang have met some new allies in Krista and Omid, a couple from California. The latter has an infected leg and will soon die without the proper medicine. Fortunately, Lee met a group of survivors who know where to get some. They infiltrate an abandoned school and discover that the radical group that once lived there were turned into walkers long before they arrived. When they reach a safe haven, they split up to cover more ground and looking for necessary supplies. And Ben says this:
It's my fault Duck and Katya got killed. If I hadn't screwed up back at the motor inn, they'd still be alive. How am I supposed to just carry something like that around? I have to tell him.
At this point, we've known Ben was responsible for the stolen supplies and subsequent fallout for a while. For those of you who've played the game before, it's likely that you suspected Ben from the beginning. It isn't exactly the most shocking thing to discover. And yet, it hurts all the same. Just, why couldn't he have been honest with the group? Lee even gave him a perfect opportunity.
It's about trust, and I've never trusted you.
Tell her. Just do it, Ben.
Lee, Jesus, who are you right
Tell
now?
her what? She'll kick me out of the group.
We won't. We'll understand.
Tell me. Now.
Was it you?
Not this again.
Was it?
No!
Okay then.
The group brought Ben into the fold because he had no one else. The people we found him traveling with didn't exactly last long. He was a kid who simply had nowhere else to go. Yes, he was threatened and coerced into helping the bandits. But he could have told the group at any time. The truth would have set him free, and his new friends would have helped him. Instead, his lies caused death and tragedy, which in turn caused him to be eaten alive by guilt. I don't want to belabor the point. These are just a few examples of the ways in which The Walking Dead approaches the concept of truth and its implications in a post-apocalyptic world. The entire story abounds with moments like these. But what exactly do these moments say about the idea of truth? I said at the beginning that the theme of truth is the theme most prevalent in the actual gameplay of The Walking Dead, and I never really explained what I meant, so allow me to talk about that. The player is given plenty of opportunities to lie. There are many times where it might even be in their best interest to do so. And despite it being potentially advantageous, I can never bring myself to do it. Why is that? It's not exactly a revelation to say that telling the truth is a good thing. It's not profound to extol the virtues of honesty, even if the truth is difficult to hear. So what sage wisdom is the game trying to tell me? What on earth could I be missing? I mean, what's the deeper idea? What's the meaning in all of this? And while I was asking myself these questions, it hit me. This tale of truth isn't trying to communicate something profound. It doesn't want to challenge your notions of the inner workings of the world. It wants to tell a story that speaks to the very core of what it means to be human by highlighting the best of us. At the end of every episode, there's a screen that depicts the major choices of the chapter and how your decisions stacked up against the rest of the player base. Studying these screens for any length of time reveals something interesting. More often than not, players chose to be honest. That's fascinating to me. Games are supposed to be fantasies in which the player can behave in whatever manner they choose, no matter how heinous. Yet, the majority of players choose to value truth and honesty. I think that says something about us. The Walking Dead is a game about many things, and at its core, it's a game about honesty and the power of truth. Lee's ability to continue to present the truth despite the sins of his past is something beautiful, and it's something human. Honesty is more than a mechanic, more than some bar that needs filling in order to activate the next big spectacle. It's something palpable. It's something with weight. It's something we value so deeply that we still choose it even with no real consequences. There is no practical reason to tell the truth in this game. Your quality of life won't suddenly change because you were dishonest with a set of ones and zeros comprising a fictional character. But The Walking Dead speaks to something more. Characters are constantly at war with truth. Should they reveal it, conceal it, or even accept it at all? Lee himself is constantly bombarded with the dilemma of difficult truth versus easy lie. It's a through line of the game that I haven't seen many people talk about. I mean, just look at those end of chapter screens I mentioned before. Look how many of the pivotal choices in the game just revolve around being honest. When speaking to characters, you'll often get a notification in the corner about the implications of your choices. Maybe someone will remember a certain detail you disclosed, or perhaps they'll notice something you implied. But the one I saw pop up most often revolved around honesty. You were honest is a kind of surreal thing to see in a game. Lee wasn't honest. You, the player, were. And your honesty manifests itself into the character of Lee because he is what you make him out to be. The game has potentially affected you in such a way that you feel obligated to tell the truth to its cast. It's something really cool to see. I can lie in other games no problem. My Dragonborn in Skyrim is as deceitful as they come. My Baldur's Gate 3 PCs sometimes lie just for the fun of it. But not Lee. Not in The Walking Dead. It is a game that so heavily values the truth that it makes the player feel that same value. That's something really moving and beautiful. That truth is powerful and arguably the only meaningful thing you have to offer in the context of the game's world. And it's something worth preserving, even during the apocalypse, and especially when it hurts. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching my video. I know your time is limited and precious and valuable, and I'm just appreciative that you spent some of it with me. So thank you for watching. Feel free to leave a comment if you got something you want to say. I love reading the comments. That's one of my favorite parts about putting out videos. So be sure to do that if that's something you want to do. But God bless, Jesus loves you, and so do I, my friend. Peace.